Hello, Anthony.
Oh, hi, Eileen.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, fine.
The
And vice versa.
joys, the joys of modern technology.
Yeah. So for the first time, I actually had to go to the launch meeting. I tried it that way, and then
Oh, okay. Yeah.
because I kept getting a message saying that the host has now ended the meeting after I'd clicked join with video. So anyway,
Yeah. No, I think what happens is, because I go up to set up the audio and everything, and if you come in earlier, then I'm ready. And I came out as you came in.
oh, I see.
Yeah. But hey ho, you're
Yeah,
here now. You're here
yeah,
now.
nice to see you.
And you too, and you too. And thank you very much for taking part in this series, which is called whisperworldwide.com. And it's about entrepreneurs, people who have set up their business, but also people that want to make a difference in the world as well, that have kind of like this passion and heart-centered leadership, which we can talk a little bit later on, if that's okay with you. I have to say, I love the background.
That's Hemel Hempstead for you.
That's beautiful, Hemel Hempstead. I'm on my way.
yeah. It's designed to hopefully, both relax me and just gives nice vibes.
Okay.
That's the idea. So, and hopefully it's amused you. So, win-win.
Okay, absolutely. I would like to be on a beach like that just now, but maybe in a couple of years' time, who knows?
Yeah.
So as we just start the interview, it would be great if you could just sort of like give us a flavour of who you are and what you're currently working on at the moment, and then we'll kind of talk about, why you started up in business.
Okay. So, right. So to give a flavour of me, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that I actually had served and protected as a police officer for 34 years. That's really important in a number of ways. I always make every day count. So as you've seen with the background, I love sunshine. I enjoy history. Part of that, I think, is my 3/4 Irish background. Music and Chelsea Football Club. Also, I'm a very firm believer in CPD and self-development. So I'd say my professional expertise in leadership is the foundation of my business. And I'm also an ACAS accredited mediator, and my focus is conflicted senior teams. So you can see how it links, quite nicely.
Yeah, no, I absolutely can. I won't hold Chelsea against you. That's okay.
Oh. Full disclosure.
I'm not a football fan. I'm a rugby fan, but I have to say I'm loving the leadership of Gareth Southgate.
Yes.
I mean, what he is doing for me is pure leadership, heartfelt. It's humble. He's got clarity. He's got honesty, and for me, that is really the way forward for anybody in leadership. And like you, I go and do a lot of coaching programs and leadership. And the one thing I say to people, be authentic, just be who you are. And actually, do the right thing. Do the right thing, not what people think should be the right thing.
No.
And so that's what I love about Gareth. So just kind of, as you talked about the football, wanted to bring that sort of in.
No, absolutely.
Before we get into talking about your books, did you want to talk about your book? Can I just ask you how long you've been working for yourself now? Okay,
so in essence, I actually started my business whilst I was in the police.
Okay.
It was an approved business. So the short version is that I delivered a course to the Prince's Trust in Watford, and they liked what I did. I designed it myself, Behaviours and Consequences, and it got bigger and bigger, so it spread right across the county. So essentially, they wanted more of my time, so it became what they called in the police an approved business interest. So I ran it for about 18 months whilst I could justify that, suspended it as a limited company, and then resumed in 2012 when I retired. So that's why I always answer it sort of that way, really. So although I've been doing post-police since 2012, I did actually start whilst I was in the police, but it's a entirely different world when it's your sole focus.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm just wondering, with that in mind, who kind of is maybe typical client now, or who would seek you out to work with them?
Okay, well, I'd say there's sort of two types of people, because as you know, with your, and I'll say it with all due respect, your great experience in this matter, is the fit is really, really important, from both sides. So it's people who wish to become leaders that others trust and respect. Right. So whether they're about to start on their journey or they're there, that's what it's about. That's one of the things. And also organizations understand and appreciate the value of an independent accredited mediator to resolve what is quite often traumatic stress amongst their staff, with all the backwash that you would know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that the saying about that accreditation, that's so important as well.
Yes.
Because it really does give you that sort of stamp of approval, in a sense that you've done the work, you've done the accreditation, you've done the background. And it's so needed when we're dealing with people, particularly in mediation. It really is needed. So okay, so that in a sense, sort of like you work with, I could imagine, individuals, organizations, small SMEs.
Yes.
It's
as you would say, it's the connectivity with the person. It's two ways. So I know certain network of organizations say about be very specific, but the only way I can be specific is around what I call the feel and the fit. And
yeah, and I totally agree with you like that. I mean, I think the days of actually having just one sort of like one fit, or one sort of brand, one sort of target, one criteria that you're going to work with. I think those days are kind of gone, because people have developed and grown so much anyway. There's so much information online that's around today. And I think, that we don't have to have just one strand or one client, one customer base.
No,
we can cross over with the skills that we develop. I mean, I find that, because I work with charities right up to working last year, the year before, with the Cabinet Office. So, it varies. And I do a lot of work with an international charity, World Vision, on their leadership and coaching programs. So actually, you bring your skill set to the client, to the business, to the organization.
Yes, very, very much so. And I think the essence of it for me is that effectively the client trusts me.
Yeah.
And also then entrusts accountability, because that all these things sort of mesh together, and the openness, because if we're talking of the smaller businesses, our businesses are our baby, so it's a really strong emotional connection, keep off and all of that stuff. So I always think whatever people are doing for themselves is a courageous step, because they could just work at Tesco or Amazon. Right, but they've effectively, as they, colleagues in the States would say, they put it all on the line.
Yeah.
And so, so we're not dealing with theoretical outcomes and developments and benefits. This is real life for people.
Absolutely. And knowing you as well, I know that kind of comment, sort of like there's nothing wrong with working at Tesco's or Amazon.
No.
And I know you didn't mean it like that.
No. I meant rather than being employed. Sorry, the better way I could put it. And I chose Tesco and Amazon. They're wonderful people. They're big brands. What I meant is, it's courageous to step out of the employed world. And if I follow that theme, and so accountants I've worked with and so forth, are people have when they set up their own business, they've got a skill or an expertise. Quite often they've learnt in the corporate world, right? And then they think, right, I'll set up a business. I'll save a lot of time, I'll make a lot of money, and I'll pay few taxes. That's really what they think. Now, the challenge is the same as me when I left the police, is you have all sorts of corporate support, things that you don't know, and they sap your time. And the big trick, if there is a trick, is what I'd almost call a opportunity cost. If you didn't do whatever it is, admin or the books, doesn't really matter, you could actually be spending time and doing what you really love doing. And that can spread out. Also, when people set up in their own businesses, invariably they involve particularly their very closest friends, sometimes their partners. And mostly my experience has been that's actually a bit of a recipe for disaster, because people are helping out, and then it goes on, and it's not really what the other person wants to do, but they don't know how to say. And so then you get that, the spillover into the private life. And then that's where it gets really damaging. But of course, as you know, with coaching and mentoring, it's not around this is great, this is wrong. It's about helping people to come to the decisions themselves, to reflect, look at things in a different way and make their own decisions. We're not dictators. That's how I would say.
Now, it's really interesting, a real interesting intake on that, because actually when I do my business courses, I do get partners on there. And the one thing I say to them is, okay, you need to separate your private life to your business life and actually put in a meeting, put in an agenda. So I give them a whole framework, and actually that works very well. Yes. Because then one partner will say, you're bringing personal stuff in, we need to close this down now. It takes on a totally different frame. So it's like a 360 from the relationship. Yes. Now, if you don't do that, you're absolutely right. You are open to lots of kind of disasters happening, both personally and professionally. But once a couple or a team or a family, because I've worked with families as well, have that framing, then actually it kind of is like a framework. Yes. And it stops the personal relationships breaking down. So very good for you to bring that up. Another thing that you kind of got me thinking along was when you were talking about, working in a business and then starting your own business. I actually honed my skills when I was working for North Herts College, and I was seconded to probation services. So I was doing the ETE, education, training and employment advice for all the probation services in Hertfordshire. And that's where I learned my coaching skills. I was studying counselling and psychotherapy at that time. But actually, when I was working with people that had extreme issues in their life, I kind of, started down the route of coaching. And I talk about that in my books that I'm writing at the moment, because that really was the foundation for me and to help people turn their lives around. Yeah. Well, so it's really interesting that you brought that up.
Yeah, thank you. And also within that frame, I should say, within that time in the police, the most powerful module of an external executive diploma in leadership and management that I took was a module called Coaching as a Leadership Style. And I won't go into the details of it, but to say the least, command and control became the default for the other 30 inspectors on the course. I actually loved it, always adopted that. And so, for my sins, politely, I think I was regarded as a maverick. But I took that really as a badge of honor. And, the implications of that style of leadership, and not knowing what I was going to be doing any day of the week or from hour to hour, but I could actually enjoy leadership because it was focused in the right way. So I can always trace absolutely back to that module and the role play I did within it, where I saw the light. Thank God a HR business partner decided to invest in that. It was wonderful, wonderful.
And it's great. I love that saying that you just said, I saw the light, because a lot of my work that I do is I really focus on emotional intelligence. And actually, sometimes some people feel a little bit nervous when I go into the coaching session with them, a leader, because actually we get down to the real issues that's going on for the person, because that's important. And you can't hide who you are. No. So integrity, actually not sort of just putting a mask on and a show. That's not leadership, as we've seen with Gareth Southgate at the moment. But absolutely, so many leaders and managers put that mask on where I'm in control. You're gonna, it is command and control. So, and maybe we'll do another session on talking about this in a bit deeper.
I really love this conversation. It's fascinating. So apologies for diverting you.
No.
100 times. I must be more disciplined.
No, not at all. This is what it's about. No. This is what it's about. When I train coaches, I actually say, learn all the techniques, get your toolkit, but put it down, because coaching conversations, any conversation, actually can get you a connection with the person, builds trust, and everybody's being authentic. You're being true to who you are.
Well,
So
that's the nub. Sorry, what I was going to say was that's the nub, which I obviously refer to in the book. But that's the key aspect for me of leadership. And so a phrase I developed, I never saw it anywhere else, consciously or unconsciously, is leadership is knowing ourselves and those we're responsible for as people and behaving accordingly.
Yeah.
And that's what it is for me. So depending on it doesn't matter the stress or anything like that, when I went as whatever rank I was at, that I was playing a role to an extent. That wasn't me as a person. No. So the real connectivity for leadership for me is when we actually know each other as people. We understand our responsibilities, but we relate on a human level. And so you get the respect sort of reflects back, and it's just a better place to be. In fact, the more significant the stress, and you can imagine some of the things that we had to get involved with, the calmer we needed to be. Yeah. And that's only possible if you've got that connectivity.
Absolutely. I know, I totally agree with you there, I really do. And it's really interesting because I kind of do my new team coaching, which I've refocused, and I said it's about belonging, not fitting in. And the reason I changed that way is I went and I did some work with I won't say who the organizations were, and actually everybody just wanted to fit in. There was no sense of belonging. And I thought, no, I don't want to work in this way because it's never going to work. It's not going to work. You've already said that. Yeah. So for me, it's like, no, if I'm going to work with a company, with a team, it's about how we belong. Do we want to belong, or do you just want to fit in? What is the culture? Yes. And again, going back to Southgate, Gary Southgate, I really love that. He is about belonging. So that kind of like in my unconscious was like, yeah, this is the way forward. This is kind of how we should be.
And just on Gareth, I don't know if you've seen it, but I may refer you to a little LinkedIn post I did yesterday, I think, where I discovered that before the tournament, he'd effectively written a letter to all the squad. When I say the squad, that was the kit men, the cooks, everybody, because he said everybody matters. Yeah. And it was called Dear England. And it was actually, it's a wonderful piece of writing. But what makes it even more powerful is this was written before the thing happened, the tournament happened. So he was actually setting out the context, if you like, how he saw the significance of the team in relation to the country, towards each other. I mean, it's wonderful, wonderfully written. And he demonstrates that. So at the end of each game, so like the last game, for example, at the moment of triumph, his thought isn't to punch the air. He turns and speaks quietly to the other manager.
Yeah.
And then they have a little hug.
Yes.
You know. So, there's lots and lots of lessons, but it's all about authenticity. Yeah. You can't play act at that. No. You can't.
No, and please do send me the link, and maybe I can share the link on the YouTube channel as well so people can read it. But as you were talking about Gareth Southgate then in that letter, I got chills. Sort of like, I really thought, oh wow, because for me, he really is demonstrating how we need to be. And the team that's out front, they're demonstrating, these young players, they're humble. This is how it needs to be moving forward. But it's the collective.
Yes.
That is the beauty of it.
Yeah.
So moving on really, can I just ask you, what were some of your challenges in setting up your own business?
The main challenge, it never stops. That's the first thing. There's always different challenges. But the first one was around, what do I do? Because there's a range of things, but essentially, and it took a few years, it's fair to say, I understood there's a difference between doing what I can do and doing what I love doing. And so the paring back process, to where I am today, that's taken a while. So I would, deliver business strategies and all that stuff, because I can do it. And I'll throw my heart and soul into it, but it just didn't, there was something missing. I thought, I'm doing it, and people valued what I was doing, and the businesses and themselves grew, but it wasn't my passion. That's what it took a while to learn. And perhaps part of that was the particular networking organization I started with. They didn't have a category of leadership coach or mentor. So the category, which is shocking, that was open to me was business coach. So, the way my mind works, I then funneled myself into that. And then, that's part of the reason why I then ended up leaving that group, because I thought, well, not being funny, that's not right. That isn't me,
And that's so important. It's finding what aligns with you, your values and beliefs. And of course, for anybody, that is starting up a business, it's a journey, it's learning.
Yes.
And it will change. Your ideas will change. You will change. The business will change. And that's okay, because you end up actually being true to yourself and following what you really want to do, the desire that you have in the first place, but honing into your skills.
Yes.
So if I can just ask you, and it's going to really lead nicely in to the book. So the highs of your business, writing the book that you've just written, it's got to be a high for you, hasn't it? And if we can just kind of say what the book is and what it's about, and I'll then jump in with some thoughts.
Okay. It was what I'd call an unexpected high. Okay. And I'll explain what I mean about that, in that as you probably saw, I'm on, LinkedIn is my principal social media. And I've always enjoyed writing and things like that. And so one day, a guy called Dennis said, well, we'd like what your articles and posts, why not write a book? And I said, well, I thought about it, but I wouldn't know how to start. So then Dennis said, right, I'll introduce you to Len. So Len is a former US Marines captain in Georgia who'd written a book on leadership, and his book's called Leadership Matters. And we became professional colleagues, first of all, great friends. We developed the system, how I would do a chapter on Word, send it over. Also, where I discovered what the word review means on the top of Word. I'd always never had an idea, didn't even dare click the link. That's real, admission time. And this coincided actually with the first lockdown. So we had wonderful weather, but also I was determined to enjoy the process. So in other words, the only performance target, because generally I'm not a fan of targets, is once I started, I would commit to one chapter a week. But I subdivided it, because that's the way my granular brain goes, that I would be writing, and then as soon as I just felt what comes next, I would stop, and then I'd do some sunbathing or listen to music. So that was absolutely critical to me. And essentially what it was about was, although it's flavored in terms of examples from the police, in terms of leadership, culture, good, bad, indifferent, all those sorts of things, the lessons I'd learned, and my journey of continuing development, because it's always continuing development, it was around two things. Is number one, if I could have had a book when I started my leadership journey, what sort of things would I want someone to say? So that was one bit, if you like, as a self-reflection bit. The other aspect was, this is for people who recognize that leadership, it's not just about being different to management, but it's actually, I'd say it's almost a philosophy, really, an ethos, all that sort of thing. And so the whole of the nature of the book is that people will pick it up and take a perspective from where they are. So there's not loads and loads of tools. It's all about mindset. And then, of course, the title, The Essential Heart of a Leader, and I put essential in capitals, is it's all based on authenticity and effectively emotional intelligence. And one of the strangest aspects for me was when the audio book was being put together, I could choose the voice, and I chose amongst 10, and I could have chosen more, an American male voice. So I just loved the voice. And as it happens, I discovered that 80% of audiobooks are sold in the US. I didn't know that. Wow. But it was really bizarre to be listening to my words being spoken by someone else. And I would always almost say it was a bit spiritual, very strong word. And when they sent me job one copies of the softback and the hardback, I knew what was in the package. It actually took me a while to open them up because I was a bit fearful, really. Wow. Not just of the what it was going to look like, but the impact on me. Yeah. And as you can hear with my voice, really, because I've gone back there. So the feel of actually holding it and thinking, yeah, on one level, yeah, it's an achievement. I've done something, but it's what it represents, because I poured myself into that book. Wow. So as they said, I didn't leave anything behind. Okay. I didn't necessarily name names. That wasn't relevant, but I was totally honest and authentic about how I felt at every stage of every case study, every perspective on leadership. And it's not a preachy document. It doesn't say this is what the path you must follow. Essentially, the lesson, and you opened it up, and obviously, this is your world, it's about being authentic. Yeah. It's about being authentic. And perhaps I could say that started for me literally my second day as a sergeant. It is a very powerful example, really, where I was getting prepared, to go into work at 2 o'clock, and the message came out that someone had been badly injured, and it transpired they'd been killed, and then it transpired it was an off-duty officer. He'd intervened whilst an armed robbery was taking place in Hemel Hempstead. And then it turned out to be as a friend who was on that shift. Now, what was bizarre, and people, with mobiles and Apple Watches and all that stuff won't understand, is in those days, that was, so 89 we're talking of, we didn't have mobile phones, not really. No. So it was landlines. So I actually had to phone, because in the end, the TV news said, it's an off-duty officer who works at Hemel Hempstead. So I actually had to phone mum and dad to say I'm not dead, and my friends. I mean, awful conversations, but that was the preparation for what becomes the authenticity side. So then, as the leadership team, sergeants and the inspector, we came in an hour earlier, and essentially our task was to manage a traumatized team. Okay. And so we came into the parade room. I carried the tea and biscuits, and 20 odd people cried. Yeah. Now, why I say that is, clearly it's a tragedy. So the authenticity aspect is, I felt tearful, but I didn't actually cry. But it was obvious, because people knew me, because I was a very outgoing person, and I normally am. They knew by my tone of voice, my body language, everything, what was going on for me. But my focus wasn't on me. My focus was on the team. Yeah. Person to person, all that sort of stuff. So a really horrific, and I apologize if it's a bit too strong, a horrific example that if I hadn't have been authentic on that totally unforeseen, unrequired day, that would have been me finished with that team. Yeah. I couldn't pretend. No. And so obviously everything didn't relate subsequently to activities at that level, but there were others equally horrific. But everything was about authenticity, because if we can't entrust ourselves to be authentic with people we've got responsibility for, and that's also a term I use rather than the people I command, there's a real difference, then we've got no chance, because the command and control world is that type of leader feels they need to know everything about everything and be the best at everything. And that drives so many bad behaviors, decisions. Whereas when you peel it back in the same way you've described, it's different. It's creating a culture. Effectively, I see my responsibility, once we've dealt with the won't do side of the house, then it's around facilitating everyone to be able to deliver their best quality of performance, and equally developing people out of the team rather than keeping hold of them.
Absolutely, Tony. And, I can feel, your emotion. I really can. And, you did kind of say, sorry, theirs is too strong. No, it's not. It's absolutely, it's real. And I think a lot of people don't really see the real side, even to some of our policemen and women. This is real. And I can feel it from you. So it's not too strong at all. It's reality. And it's kind of, how else can you deal with such a situation without taking it real, but also looking at your team, those skills, that ability that you had was very, very powerful, very powerful. So in the book, I listened to the sample on audio, and I like the way that it kind of says about the clue is in the title. I really like that. But what I also loved really was about how your mother actually shaped your thinking. Me was like, wow, and it was that you talk about when you went to school and there was 2 Anthonys, and the teacher wanted to call you Tony, and you went home to your mum, and she wasn't having any of that, was she?
No, and fair to say, I was 5 at the time. Needless to say, it wasn't senior school. So I proud, and my mum, is very significant. She was from Cork, so as you know, in my experience, in Irish households, the woman runs the show. All right. So and so I go home proudly, saying, "Oh yeah, I've got a new name," and then literally she says, "Don't take your coat off." And I can remember that journey, about 1.5 miles, and I'm thinking, "Oh, she's just going to say hello to Miss Stewart." So I can remember the name. And she gave very direct feedback that Anthony was christened as Anthony. That's how you'll address him. Are we clear? To the extent that, and that happened. So my dad, because he was a Chelsea fan and everything, and we went to all matches together. But he, right throughout his life, when my mum was around, he daren't call me Tone or Tony. When we went to football, absolutely fine, but those are the rules. But also friends in the police who discovered this, they were really mischievous, because they would be chatting to my mum, and they kept heavy emphasis. Oh yeah, we was with Anthony who did this, and Anthony did. So she loved it. She thought, oh, everybody's calling my son Anthony. But and it's interesting, I just shortened it to Tony when I joined the police, really, because almost that's what you do in an organization. You, to an extent, you fit in whilst you're finding your feet. So Anthony would have sounded a bit highfalutin, because I joined in 78, and so it was an entirely different world in the police. You can imagine. I mean, it's way beyond Life on Mars or the Sweeney. I mean, that's really sugar coated. It was a force, with a capital F. So anything that would stop people being on your back unnecessarily, and I recognise from training school, because that was all male, Tony was a better fit than saying Anthony.
And absolutely, I mean, the times have changed, and quite rightly, and thank God. And thank God we are actually changing as well, because there is sort of like so many shifts going on, and paradigm shifts that we do need, and this is about the new leadership. But getting back to the book again, I mean, when you talk about being 5, I find a lot of the times when I'm working with leaders, with people in business, directors or whoever, there is that what informed their behavior right back to the early days. So, and sometimes we need to go back there and maybe relook at that. And for some people, we need to reparent. And then for others, it absolutely is the foundation of their values and their beliefs.
Yes.
So,
and hopefully I described it in the right way, is I clearly have never forgotten. I mean, I know it's the 14th of April 1989. I can remember. I didn't want to necessarily say that, but the significance of authenticity and of understanding that the team, if you like, were only leased to me. I didn't own these people. We were person to person.
Yeah.
So that lesson, horrific circumstance, never ever left me. So you're quite right. So I meant to say that I could, what's the word, evaluate the context that I was in, because everything wasn't like that. But the essence of it is when I inherited a new team or department, absolutely not job one, my first responsibility, that's the better way of putting it, was to get to know the team as people and vice versa.
Yeah,
absolutely. So it was a horrific lesson, you're quite right, that's never left me.
Yeah. No, it comes across. I mean, I'm listening to the sample I listened to. It's kind of like, oh yeah, a great sort of snippet into wanting to listen more. And the other thing I really liked there was with regards to when your mother said to you, when you went to sort of like secondary school, that there is going to be people richer than you, but nobody is better than you.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, it's dead true, because Eileen's grammar, as it was a 500-year-old grammar school. So really the ethos was like a public school. There were even borders. So everyone, and part of the subtext was that we actually took the 11 plus without ever being told it was 11 plus. Just everyone do this exam, and then a week later, I'll call two of us out, me and another person. I'll go and meet Mr. Williams, who's the deputy head of Eileen's. That's when I actually found that out. So they had gowns, it was the full Monty, if you like, of a public school, really. So but the beauty of that was that people were judged on their intellect. Their background was irrelevant. It's like a meritocracy in one way. And the same as at university. So whilst understandably, because of its brand reputation, it was the only grammar school in Stevenage. There was one supplier, Frank Leslie, who did the uniforms, all that sort of stuff. It was intimidating before I went. As soon as I arrived, I then became accommodated in it, and that became the natural thing. So that when I went to university, and that actually, perhaps I ought to say at this point, there's quite an interesting little story here, which comes back to school and everything like that. So I remember I'd finished my A-levels, and it's a lovely sunny day, and I was walking out by the school gates, and I saw Mr. Ramsley as the geography and economics teacher. Really fierce guy, but luckily he appreciated what I did. But he was really feared. He wasn't brutal in any way, not like some of them, but he was a strong character. So I said to him, sir, do you mind if I ask you a question? He said, what's that? He said, well, I've had several offers from universities, and I've had several good offers of employment. What do you suggest? Then what he said was, you can get a job anytime, but what you'll learn at university will equip you for life. And he said, my suggestion is you choose a university that's far enough from home so that you've got to learn to cope for yourself. Wonderful advice. 40 years later, I discovered that there was it was called the Eileen Association. So old boys, but also it become co-ed in that time, and an academy. And the guest speaker was Mr. Ramsley 40 years later. Now, to be fair, I thought he'd have been dead, but he wasn't. So clearly I prayed that he would, be there. And I knew he always loved red wine. So I got the best bottle of claret I could. I went to him. I couldn't call him Les, that was his first name. I had to say, sir. And I said, do you remember the conversation? And he did. He remembered it.
Wow.
So I could shake his hand, say thank you, and give him the bottle of claret. That was unbelievable. Wonderful. Unbelievable to do that.
Well, life and the journey and the twists and turns that we all have, has a way of again helping people to have sort of significant moments in their life, then to go back and revisit by sort of like synchronicity, by, you know, him being a guest speaker,
Yeah.
by you thinking about that event, you know, and
Yeah.
how you shaped your life. So if
Yeah.
people want to get the book, where can they get
Yeah.
the book?
Yeah. It's available on Amazon. Yeah. So if you're in the US who's watching this, you can get it from Amazon US, or in the UK. So yeah, the softback, and the feedback I'm getting about the softback, it's like mole skin. So apparently it's really lovely. Hardback, Kindle, and the audio book.
Yeah.
But you can get it also from Waterstones and sort of other book depositories.
Great. Okay, and what I'll do is I'll put the links up in under the video and YouTube as well, so that people can have a look at the kind of links there. So, I mean, we could talk all day, but we can't. Because there's so much to talk about. There's so many insights that I think we can glean from you, and that people can kind of really understand and resonate with as well, particularly on your life journey. But sort of like with regards to you sort of working for yourself, now that what you're doing, I sent you, I don't know whether you managed to have a look at Jeff Bezos, the ex-Amazon sort of director.
Yes.
Did you have a look at his 10 quotes? Because I
yes, I did.
Was there any of those that jumped out at you, that resonated?
Yeah, well, he's obviously in different ways an amazing guy. I think number one, not because I was intellectually lazy, but number one, I remember, was have no regrets. And I think that really struck home. All the others were fine. Yeah. But you know, as someone else said, you know, life's not a dress rehearsal. So you get one shot at it, and absolutely enjoy it to the full. But one thing, I don't know if it would be relevant, I actually found it. So I was thinking, it's all very well to say, although I haven't really, you know, what a wonderful person I am. I'd like to think so. But there was a testimonial I once got. Wow. I don't mean I've only had one testimonial, but one that stuck with me, if I may. It's, dear Tony, where do I start? I came to you months ago with no time, no social life, and a wife that wasn't too happy with me. I barely had time for the meeting. You soon set aside your normal processes, and we dived together into crisis management. This I needed, me to enable me to trust you, and vice versa, and quickly. As a true testament to your guidance, all I can say is I now have social time, I have weekends, I have a wife that is back on side, and even started to free up some time for the gym. All these areas of life I had lost to work. Tony, you've helped to bring them back. I have and will continue to recommend you, etc., etc. But the real wonderful thing that was there, that was wonderful to see it in words, but several years later, and you wouldn't be surprised to say the essence of this, the problems with this person was failure to prioritize and time management. That's the nub of it. So some 6 months later, I was at a function and I was introduced to his wife. So we'd never met. And it's quite powerful, really. She said, "Thank you for saving my husband. Thank you for saving my marriage." Wow.
What a fantastic testimony.
Yeah, you know, there's literally, I couldn't think of any response really other than to shake her hand and say thank you. No, you know, because that's what we're saying. This is real life for people.
No, absolutely. And I think, you know, it is about being real with people. It is. It's not about the fluffy words that you see. I mean, you know, there's so many people out there sort of selling things, and I'm not going to go into it, but it's all fluff and it's not going to happen, particularly in the coaching world. Set up a coaching business, you're going to become a millionaire. The people that are going to become the millionaires are the one that you give your money to set up your business. It ain't going to happen. It ain't going to happen. But that's another story and another day, because people want reality, you know, and that testimonial is incredible. You must be very, very proud, very humbled by it as well.
And what I hadn't said is the you know, the person concerned, he was what I call a very dry person. So he had 3 IT businesses. So he wasn't a soft and fluffy person. So the last thing I expected when he came up to me to start was, I need you to save my marriage. That's how he, clearly he was in sorts of crisis. Yeah, he trusted me, and that was all that you can ask for, because we connect as a team, don't we? When we're coaching or mentoring people, it's not an us and them, not in my world.
Nope.
We're absolutely together. We have different perspectives.
Co-collaborators.
Yeah, well,
co-collaborators.
Yeah, I wish I'd thought of that word. I'd have sounded more professional.
Oh, no. Yeah, but you see, this is all this thing about what is professional, that mask on. We've just got to be who we are. We're not acting, it's reality. And when we act, we put on a facade, we put on a face. So again, for me, when I'm working with people, and what I'm really about with my work as well is like, let's look at it now. Let's not get it to a place where it's crisis, particularly within teams and in leadership roles. So it's emotional intelligence. It's that belonging, really is, what are you creating? What is your business about? Who's working for you, and how do they belong? So, for me, I'm looking forward to the link for the Gareth Southgate's letter, because I really want to look at that, because he's really, he's really got my interest. I'm kind of loving what he's doing, as everybody else is. So Tony, if people want to contact you, where can they find you?
So I'm on LinkedIn as Anthony Munday with an H, and it's conflict resolution mediator, and it then says published author and all that sort of stuff. That's the best way, and then all my contact details are there, but also I think you've got my details as well.
I have, but I wouldn't want people to be coming to me for your details, because I would just get lost in admin. So what absolutely. What I'll do is I'll put your details under the video, and on the website whisperworldwide.com, we're setting you up with your own kind of profile, and a link to the video, and also a link to who you are, so people can get that from you. And I'll also put it up on my website, eileenhutchinson.com, so people can get that to you there as well. And the reason I said that is that I get so many contacts every day that I just get lost, or
yes, and my apologies. I mean,
no, it's fine.
Again, I knew what I meant. I didn't mean you physically to be my PA. What I meant was, in whatever the format you were going to be delivering this and marketing it, for want of that word, exposing it, showing it to people, then pop it in there. And exactly as you said, YouTube.
All the links will be there, absolutely, so people can connect with you. Well, I really want to thank you for today.
I
really do, and I'd probably like to maybe do another sort of interview with you, maybe specifically on different aspects, maybe of the book or of leadership. That would really
that would be great.
Yeah, if you'd be up for that, that'd be really,
of course.
Really good.
No, that will be my pleasure. And what I'll also do is I will let people know what we've been doing.
Wonderful.
So I'll put that on LinkedIn and share what it's all about.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's kind of what I'm sort of why I set whisperworldwide.com up was you may know Mark Straker, and I talk about him on the website. He was a film writer and a producer, and we both had charities way back, and we both decided to come together to create this program of whisperworldwide.com. Mark was going to do all the filming, and he worked a lot with knife crime and the police in Hertfordshire, but also in the States as well. And because I did all the coaching and the emotional intelligence, we wanted to bring this together for whisperworldwide.com to give people resources, information and support. But of course, Mark, tragically, he died. And I've relaunched the project because I want to keep his memory alive. And he died at age 50. So that was a real tragedy to him. So this kind of, in a sense, is sort of like giving people information, understanding that we're all human, understanding that, I say there's no such thing as failure. There's only feedback. So don't lose sight of what you think you want to do, but reach out to people, find a network, or just talk to people. So this is what this is all about. So it's sharing, giving resources, and I give a lot of free resources on my site as well, linked to Whisper, just to help people who may not have the income as well to kind of, you know, get some of these resources. So again, it would be wonderful to do another session with you, particularly looking at sort of like, and I you know, I don't want to stereotype here at all, but from a young man's point of view, sort of young men, and then I can bring the female's point of view as well, sort of as a mum also. It'd be really good to have that dialogue, really.
Good. And in fact, that links very well with the Prince's Trust stuff that I did, because it was called Behaviours and Consequences. So
and we have that in common, because I did the mentoring program with the Prince's Trust, Leaving Care and business mentoring with the Prince's Trust. So yeah, so that's synergy there as well. It's interesting, isn't it? Really is.
That's great.
So thank you very much. I'll share the video with you as well, and I look forward to us doing another session very soon.
Absolutely, that'll be wonderful. And however I can assist, I mean, there's the video, as you say, but not saying just myself, but there are other people that in my network, authentic network, and who could link in with, you know, your purpose, you know, your higher purpose there. Absolutely.
I'd really value that, Tony. That would be really lovely. Thank you, because it is about just giving people to have a different frame on life. You know, not to think that you need to make it to be a millionaire to enjoy life. And actually, you know, those that make it to a millionaire, good on them. But it's the simple things in life. It's the everyday things that we have that we need to appreciate. That, I think, is sort of like, I want to get out to people so much, because like you, I've seen so much damage being done by people being given the wrong information, by thinking their life isn't right. We can talk about this. So that'd be really lovely if you do that. Thank you. Be my pleasure. And in fact, that's, if you like, to an extent, one of, I'd say, the positive features of the pandemic, in that not just for myself but friends, and people realize there's something more than their own little world. So being able to phone someone up and just say, how are you? You know, things that we didn't used to do. And quite often, because we all ended up being Zoomed or Teamed out in business, so quite often, if it's personal, so I'll phone people up, or people phone me, you know, because you're listening to the voice rather than splitting your attention. So I think, you know, we've had the opportunity to understand really what humanity is. I totally agree with you, and I've gone all cold again, so I've got shivers sort of like going through my body at the moment. No, because for me, actually, you know, the pandemic's been absolutely horrendous on many levels. But actually, what it has done, it's humbled a lot of people, in the sense whereby, you know, they realize that we so need each other, that we need to be connected. And for me, it's kind of like the change that about being human. Take away the facades, let's just be human beings, and, you know, support each other. So wonderfully wrapped up.
And then thanks. And then the final little bit there is that now, you know, things are opening up. What we've also been doing is actually arranging and started meeting again. Actually meeting. And that's amazing. Doesn't matter what you talk about, just we've actually got there and you're connecting. So it's so it's been horrible in all sorts of ways, but it's been a big lesson. I think been a big lesson. You're quite right. But no, thank you for inviting me, and apologies for any shivering implications.
No, I mean, for me, when I kind of get those shivers, isn't it? And I say to people, it's the intuition. It's kind of speaking to our, dare I say, our soul, our purpose. It's speaking to us. So, you know, for me, they're welcomed, actually, because it's in alignment with how I want to live and what I want to do and how I want to give back. And in the past, I might have shied away from saying that, where today I don't. Absolutely, I don't. So no apologies needed. Absolutely not.
Excellent.
Okay, and I'll set up another session with you as well.
That will be great, and I'm fine for next May. All right.
Oh, perfect. Wonderful. Yeah, because we're going to do some podcasts together.
Wonderful. Lovely.
Thank you.
We have a great weekend.
And you too. Thank you.
Thank you once again, Eileen. Take care.
You're more than welcome. Lovely. Take
Bye.
care, Tony.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.